Today on the Star Trek Critic, you're going to see what they do between episodes when there is nothing else to do in the middle of space. Worf teaches Klingon Tai Chi. Beverly grows her stash of drugs to sell on the black market. And Guinan has a date with Picard in one of his holodeck escape rooms. Gloria, from Cleveland, has a magic cigarette that changes length. However, since it is a holographic cigarette, I can't take a point. Johnny believes Gloria is the first baseman. Johnny stands in front of the window and gets shot. However, they might have been aiming for Dixon Hill. The blinds have not changed. And now they have, so -1 point. Picard believes Johnny and the shooter are both the first baseman. Guinan says, "This is what you do for fun?" Picard says, "Oh yes, this isn't foreshadowing the rest of the episode at all." A holographic corpse will not move his eyes that way, so -1 point. Now, will a holographic telephone work? We will never know. Data says, "I, number 1. Picard says, "Sorry, Gloria, I have to go, but you can stay if you like." Gloria says, "No thanks, my version of fun is trash-talking billionaires on daytime TV. It's amazing how much money I get doing that." T-Tari's stars are real. They're usually less than 10 million years old, which is why there would never be a Class M planet around one. Data is posing just like Commander Riker. If Data was in charge of the bridge, why is Riker there now? Did Data call both of them back? 1 point lost for a single set of doors on the turbo lift, and 1 point lost because Picard magically changed clothes while we weren't looking. Now they're thinking, should we get closer and swallowed up by it, or go to a safe distance? Data awaits an answer, but it turns out it's nap time for the Enterprise crew. This episode is Clues, of course, and another point lost for opening credits 6 minutes into the show. This is Picard maneuver number 1, Picard maneuver number 2. Look close, Worf is rubbing his wrist. Here is Data's biggest mistake. He should have said 30 seconds passed for the crew, but they came out of the wormhole 1 day later, so they won't freak out when they contact Starfleet and find out they lost a day. And -1 point for them not contacting Starfleet to find out the time, and -1 point since someone from Starfleet would have called them during that day. Deanna's not feeling well. She had some really bad replicated food last night, but she says, it'll pass. Data says, let's not go back, let's just launch a probe. 1 point lost for reused footage. Of course, there's only one way to launch a probe. Beverly discovers her drug stash has grown considerably. Will she report it, or just start selling it sooner? Data displays the false image of a different planet. In reality, the Paxtons themselves should consider sending out false signal like this, so no one flying by sees they have a Class M planet. Riker says, wait a minute, I thought we all saw the Class M planet. Data says, I, number 2. Riker says, something is wrong with our sensors. Data says, that sounds good, let's stick with that so you don't realize I'm lying to everyone. The ensign says, I, number 3. Beverly brings her stash of drugs to her biggest buyer. Picard's, wow, Dimetian scarlet moss. I used to smoke this all the time when I was in Starfleet Academy. Dr. Crusher says, we were out for at least a day. Picard says, Beverly, we never listened to Wesley, so we're not going to listen to his mother either. Beverly says, either believe me or I'm going to sell my drugs to somebody else. 1 point lost for Captain's log talking down to the audience like we forgot everything during the commercials. Data continues to throw himself under the bus. Picard says, Data, go to engineering so we can talk about you. Data's like, you're going to talk about me now, aren't you? Geordi is way over concerned about his beard not growing for a day. Geordi comes down to engineering and says, Data, we're done talking about you in the conference room. Now go up to the bridge so I can talk about you with Nelson. Poor Ensign Lachlan. They check all her body parts, including her hoo-ha, and don't even tell her why. Beverly tells Picard, if Lachlan's hoo-ha is 1 day off, that means all of us are. Geordi performs Picard maneuver number 4. Poor Data, he's thinking, now I know what Hal was going through in a space odyssey. Another point lost for another captain's log. Geordi has decided to pick Data's brain. Geordi comes in and says, excuse us, counselor, but he talks to Picard about Data right in the bridge where everybody can hear, so -1 point. Worf continues to rub his wrist. As usual, the crew of Star Trek does not follow the teachings of Yoda. Deanna passes out. Last night's replicated meal really got to her. She says she's going to her quarters, and Worf goes with her. In reality, they've been doing this frequently when they sneak off to do the nasty. You can see the look of sadness in Worf's face when she doesn't invite him in. Aww. The next point is lost. Worf turns around just a split second before she screams. Deanna said she saw herself without any makeup on. She says she was possessed. maybe they should call this person. Worf finally breaks down and admits his pain. He says, the director kept telling me to rub my wrist all the way through the show, and now it really hurts. Data got sent to the principal's office. Now he's thinking, it's a good thing I reported it. I don't have to rub my wrist in the background anymore for the next 47 minutes. Picard says, I think Data is lying to us to prevent us from getting all killed, so let's go back and get ourselves killed. It turns out this is a Class M planet after all. Since the Paxons have technology to create a wormhole and erase everyone's memories, you'd think they would have satellites in orbit around their planet that would send out a false signal, but they don't. Riker says, if this planet is so dangerous, Data is willing to risk his career to keep us safe, maybe we should just stay clear. Picard says, nope, let's go back and make a big mess of this all over again. Now there's an energy field that's going to destroy the ship. Deanna is asleep when she is possessed, wearing a nightgown, but she's in her uniform here, so -1 more point. Geordi interrupts him, and he's like, first Worf and now Data? You really get around. This is Picard maneuver number 4. Picard is obsessed with the left fielder.
The left fielder's name. Why?
Picard wants to know, why did the first baseman order Data to give them false information? And he says, did Starfleet contact you? How come I haven't contacted Starfleet this whole time? Data finally gives in and says, no, you gave me the order. Worf says, I, number 4. And he's like, the first baseman is a they-them? The Paxtons are total xenophobes that spend more time and money to hide their existence, but this time it backfired on them. Geordi says, this is why our beards didn't grow, but in reality, he probably shaved during that missing day. Now for the flashback. This is Picard maneuver number 5, which means it's time for a drink.
We like to drink, 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 drink.
1 point lost here. Worf should have stunned her from behind. The three amigos sing their favorite Who song. I don't believe Picard's negotiating skills would allow another race the opportunity to wipe out the entire crew's memory, so -1 point. 1 point lost here because you still don't know that this race is referred to as the Paxons. They haven't formally introduced themselves. So his order is to last as long as Data exists, but when his memories were transferred to B4 and he ceased to exist, is it still a secret in the new Data? This is still a mistake. He should have let the clock continue running, then say that 1 day had passed while they were trapped in the wormhole, but it only felt like 30 seconds to them. Picard talks them into doing it one more time. Ironically, the xenophobes agree. They must realize that destroying the ship is more trouble than it's worth. Riker holds her with his right hand, and now it's his left hand, so -1 point. This is Picard maneuver number 6. Now, nearly 4 days have passed while Data tells them it's only been 30 seconds. I know this sounds icky, but they will have a new mystery when all the women of the Enterprise realize their internal clock has been thrown off by 4 days. This time Data manages to talk them out of going back. However, Picard says to alert Starfleet of the wormhole. Someone is going to show up to snoop around eventually. And we never learn the results of the next probe. The ensign says, I, number 5, so we're going to finish this show with another drink.
We like to drink, 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 drink.
Tom Knickerbocker has 50 screen credits, including Alien Nation, Scrubs, and Boston Legal. This is the third and final Trek appearance of Rana Aldrich. She has 55 screen credits, including Happy Days, V, and Night Court. And this is the first of 3 appearances of Pamela Winslow Kashani as Ensign McKnight. Clues, where the entire crew goes through a Star Trek escape room, gets a score of 83. Yeah! Thanks for viewing. Be sure to leave comments below. Click that like button, the share button, that subscribe button, and I'll see you again next week.